Some folks say that I've got the perfect life. 3 swell kids, lots of toys, and a lovely wife.
Good morning, everyone. Howdy there. MikesMMAPicks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown for UFC Vegas 8. Alexander-Rakic taking on Anthony Smith inside of the UFC Apex. Let's kick things off. Only 4 fights expected to end inside the distance out of 11, which is a little odd to see. First fight of the night, we've got Sean Brady taking on Christian Aguilera. Aguilera coming in with a finish victory over Anthony Ivy. Aguilera 6,900 in DraftKings plus 334. Wide line here, but I think it is warranted against Sean Brady. Sean Brady 9,300 in DraftKings minus 435 favorite. Sean Brady, if you take into account his amateur record, he's coming in with a 16-fight win streak. Conservative fighter, will use his wrestling, not looking to throw power strikes. Got some impressive tattoos on his back, but that doesn't help you in a skill department. The win over Court McGee in his debut was a test against a grizzled veteran, came through in that spot. Still only 27 years of age. This fight isn't expected to go to a decision at minus 120. I'll be picking Sean Brady to win here. I also was impressed with his victory over Ismail Nardiev. Aguilera does have 11 knockouts on his resume, so the guy does throw with fight-ending power, but I think he's going to spend a lot of time on his back in this spot. Next up, we've got Emily Whitmire taking on Martin-Cifers. This fight is not necessarily UFC level fight. This fight takes place at 115 pounds. Martin-Cifers is dropping down from 125 pounds. She's suffered 3 consecutive losses in a row. $8,000 in DraftKings for Viana, plus 113 underdog. By the looks of her social media page, more of an Instagram model at this stage in her career. Whitmire 4-3 record. She also has some pretty bad losses on her resume, but she did fight Amanda Ribas. Both of these fighters have a mutual opponent in Amanda Ribas, and actually Viana was the one who took Ribas out earlier in her career. 8,200 for Whitmire, minus 137. This line is closing a bit here. Whitmire fights out of Vegas. Seen her with Johnny Case through the past few months, though not lately on the social media page. Whitmire, the wrestling, she does tend to quit in a lot of her fights, and you can say the same for Viana as well. I think the fight doesn't go the distance. Prop is on the table in this spot. This fight right now is expected to go to a decision at minus 150. This fight, in my eyes, who's going to break first? That's the question. Viana does have more output on the feet. Whitmire is more of a bulldog in there. I want to pick Viana in this spot. I think that she has a little bit more in the tank, and I will be picking Whitmire, though. I think that her wrestling could be the difference in this spot. Viana, this may be where she gets her pink slip. I could see Viana winning this fight as well, so I'm not going to be touching this from a wagering perspective. But Whitmire will be my pick. And as far as DraftKings goes, You may want to take a look at Viana at $8,000. She has the potential to come through as an underdog, and at that price point, you're looking at a spot where there is potential for a finish. Next up, we head to middleweight, where we have Zach Cummings taking on Algeo-Di Chirico. Di Chirico coming in at 7,800, minus 123. This line has flipped. Cummings was initially a favorite here. Cummings 8,400 plus 103. Cummings fighting out of a solid camp. Glory. You've got James Krause and a bunch of other guys over there. A few folks who are going to be coming in fighting on this card as well. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 205. You look at Di Chirico's record, 12-4 record. I wish we would have gotten to see Vettori take on Di Chirico at some point in their respective careers. Haven't seen that though. The fight against Kevin Holland, one thing that I want to point out is Di Chirico was having his moments in that spot. I believe this was the fight where Kevin Holland injured his shoulder and was still able to come through in that spot. Cummings, grizzled veteran, has taken some hellacious beatings throughout his career and has kept on coming. No pun intended. In this spot, I see Cummings actually getting the victory here by way of decision. I think he's going to use his grappling advantage in this spot, and that should be a difference maker. Next up, we head to 115 pounds in the ladies division, where we have Mallory Martin taking on Hannah-Cifers. Mallory Martin, 6-3 record, massive favorite in this spot, minus 312, 8,900, only 26 years of age. Hannah-Cifers, 10-6, coming off of a number of quick finishes where she was blown out of the water. Hannah-Cifers, 7,300 plus 249, underdog. Cifers has adequate stand-up. She's a power puncher. She's going to have to get into range to do that, and Mallory Martin is a grappling heavy fighter who is going to look to take this fight to the mat. You've got Mallory Martin, who fights out of Team Elevation Fight Team, and Mallory Martin has been training with Shayna Dobson, who we saw last week come through against Agapova, and then you also have Montana De La Rosa, who's been working with Mallory Martin. You go back and watch Mallory Martin's fights, and in 2017 she had a fight against the Tsunami and took a unanimous decision loss where she ate a ton of strikes in that fight and was completely outmatched on the feet. And I gotta say, Hannah-Cifers, I think, is a live dog in this spot. I think this line is extremely wide here. I think that a lot of people are overlooking Cifers in this spot. This fight is expected to go to a decision. If Cifers spends time on her back, there is the potential for her to be grounded out here. I could see that happening, but I also see Cifers working her way back to her feet. The Angela Hill loss, those were bad optics. You see her getting taken down, getting completely smashed by an Angela Hill who that typically is not her game. And then you have Mallory Martin in here who has Deron Wynn helping her out, and but also I have to think with Cifers with her back against the wall. She did come in overweight in this spot. I think we're going to see Martin-Cifers surprised some folks here with an upset. Next up, we have Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres taking on Austin Springer. Caceres 16-12 record, 7,400 in DK, minus 190 favorite, coming off of the Chase Hooper victory where he was able to stick and move. Austin Springer 12-3 record, 7,200 plus 175 underdog. You look at Austin Springer, he did at one point attempt to get into the tough house and against Chris Grutzmacher, had a hellacious beating that isn't even on his record. It counts as an exhibition, those fights, and that fight took place at 155 pounds. Springer has fought as low as 135 pounds. He's fought at bantamweight before. He missed weight here by 6 pounds. I believe he came in at 151 pounds on very short notice. Caceres, the win over Steven Peterson. He's been counted out many times before. This kid, he's not up there in age. He does have a lot of fights. I actually like Caceres in this spot. As far as DraftKings goes, you look at this spot, 7,400 for a minus 190 favorite. Sign me up. I'll be picking Alex Caceres to win there. Next up, we have a middleweight matchup between Maki Pitolo, who's got a quick turnaround after the submission loss to Darren Stewart, taking on Impa-Kasanganay. Impa-Kasanganay, 7-0 record, 8,500 in DK for a very, very green fighter, minus 147. This line originally opened as virtually a pick'em. Then Kasanganay was bet up to, I believe, minus 150-ish, and it came back in, and now it's starting to come out again. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 135. Few things. Coconut bombs. You go watch him. I cannot get that Callan Potter loss out of my head. He's moved up to 185 pounds, beat Charles Byrd. Really, when you watch him, he's got solid striking, great boxing, power, gas tank. But his striking defense is a major issue. Also, his fight IQ seems to be a big issue. This is Maki Pitolo we're speaking of. Kasanganay, 7-0 record, fights out of a solid camp with Salter and Selecki and a few other fighters down in North Carolina. Has a great head on his shoulders, was a former football player who can't seem to find fights for some reason. Came on to the Contender Series, was a massive underdog, I believe plus 400 underdog in his bout, and found a way, simply found a way. You watch his latest fight on the Contender Series. This is Kasanganay, and this kid, although he's very green, looks stiff in the stand-up, makes smart decisions inside of the octagon. And one of the things that caught me during a post-fight interview was he mentioned that he tries not to get caught up in the things that don't matter. Don't get caught up in the flashy stuff. Just do what you have to do. And I think that's helped his gas tank. I also think that as far as decision-making goes, you don't see him attempting high-risk maneuvers inside of the octagon. And if he doesn't get caught by one of those coconut bombs, then he should win this fight. Although he is green, he seems much more mature. He's got a great head on his shoulders. So I'm going to be picking Kasanganay to win as the slight favorite. Next up, we head to the 205-pound division, where we have a fight that's been rebooked, I believe, 4 separate times. We've got Magomed Ankalaev taking on Algeo-Lamas. Cutelaba, 15-5 record. The Moldovan, the Hulk, 7,200 plus 251 underdog. A lot of people see this as a very wide line fight, but then you got to look a little bit deeper too. So 9,000 for Ankalaev, minus 312 favorite, 28 years of age for Ankalaev. Cutelaba still only 26 years old, so he's still growing. 13-1 record. We saw Ankalaev take that loss to Craig, where he was submitted in the final seconds. You look at his resume. Most of his fights are won via stand-up. Does have a few decision victories on his record, though there is a grappling pedigree in there as well. And inside of this small octagon, Cutelaba, I suspect he'll be throwing the kitchen sink at Ankalaev, trying to get him out of there early. He's outmatched in almost every facet of the game. This fight, I'll be picking Ankalaev to win. I think he could potentially get this done inside the distance. This fight is expected to end inside the distance at minus 275. So keep your eye on this one as a DraftKings play. There is always potential that the Dagestani gets caught or clipped by one of the power punches, but I think the far more likely outcome in this spot is going to be a win by Ankalaev. You watch the way he fought at range. I really liked the way he sat back, his distance management, although he's been caught a couple of times by other fighters. I believe Dalcha caught him briefly. Ankalaev does have solid distance management, and I think that's going to be a big asset. Although this is taking place in the smaller octagon, give me Ankalaev. Next up, we've got Bill Algeo. That's a familiar name. Taking on Ricardo-Lamas. Ricardo-Lamas is coming in at 9,200, your second highest priced fighter on the card, minus 303. Favorite Lamas now 38 years old. Algeo coming in with a 2.5-inch reach advantage. We've seen him on the Contender Series. He fought Brendan, who ended up not getting the contract. Algeo, jiu-jitsu fighter, has 6 submission victories. You look up and down his resume, he's taken losses to a number of fighters that we know. Took a loss to Jared Gordon. 31 years of age, plus 239 underdog. Algeo doesn't necessarily have the power that is going to cause Ricardo-Lamas problems. The last time Lamas came in and fought a short notice opponent, he faced a heavy hitter in Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett, oh man, that was one of the most devastating knockouts we've ever seen. Lamas, I'm glad he's still alive and well, fighting today. 38 years of age. Lamas has been around the block, does have a deceptively strong ground game. We don't get to see much of it though. I see this fight heading to the mat, and I see Lamas locking up a submission here. This fight is expected to end inside the distance at minus 165. So give me Ricardo-Lamas to win right there. Next up, we have women's 125-pounders. Alexa Grasso makes her debut up a weight class after missing weight a number of times. By the way, Martin-Cifers did miss weight. She came in at 117 pounds earlier in the breakdown. I wanted to mention that. Alexa Grasso, 11-3 record, still has a lot of shine on her. 9,100. It's amazing how many fighters now have beat Karolina Kowalkiewicz and looked like rock stars out there. She's one of them. Minus 303 favorite, still only 27 years of age. She got started young though. Kim, 30 years old, 7,100 plus 239. If you're looking for a punt, this fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 375. Kim has a tremendous reach advantage in this spot, though. What are you going to do with reach advantage? She doesn't typically use punches that are going to sting and that are going to threaten opponents. Problem is, Alexa Grasso, she's got to come in with a lot of confidence and not care about Kim's strikes. I don't think Kim has the potential to win this fight via stoppage. And she's got the Inspector Gadget arms on her 9-2-2 record. I'll be picking Alexa Grasso to win this fight. Just be aware, this has the potential at -375. It's going to go to a decision most likely, and when it's in the judges' hands, you never know how they're gonna decide things. We saw what happened last week in the Pedro Munoz Frankie Edgar fight. There are no certainties in this game, but the likely outcome here is that Alexa Grasso finishes or gets the job done. Not via finish, though. Now, co-main event of the evening, where we have a big name in Robbie Lawler taking on Lawler-Magny. Lawler-Magny, 23-7 record, 30 fights, 30 pro fights under his belt, 33 years of age, 8,600 in DK, -256 favorite. Elevation Fight Team has a bunch of fighters coming in who have been training in the same camp as him. Anthony Smith in the main event as well. Robbie Lawler taking this fight on short notice. Didn't look the same on the scale. Robbie Lawler looks like he did not get a full camp in. 7,600 plus 208. Now, Robbie Lawler, one of my favorite all-time fighters. The way he came back after the controversial loss to Johnny Hendricks and got the belt, the fights against Nick Diaz. There have been a number of spots where Robbie Lawler has come in and dug deep and got the job done. I remember UFC, I believe it was 189. I watched that fight in a movie theater, packed movie theater, and the way he dug deep against Rory McDonald, something special. So he's not going to go away. This fight should be expected to go to a decision at -225. Lawler-Magny coming in with a big reach advantage in this spot. He's got to stay at range. He is a tall, skinny fighter. So Robbie Lawler, we haven't seen him land the knockout blow, but there's always potential for him to do so, even though it hasn't happened in a few years. I'll be picking Lawler-Magny to win a volume-based decision in this spot. There are two ways this fight could go, or three ways. Lawler-Magny could come out here, stick and move, stay at range, and pepper Lawler, frustrate him. Magny can also come in here and look to grapple heavy. He's got a great gas tank. And the third thing that could happen is Lawler could get the finish here. But I'll be picking Lawler-Magny to win a volume-based decision. Next up, main event of the evening, where we have Anthony Smith taking on Alexander-Rakic. Rakic, 12-2 record, 8,700 in DK, -270 favorite. This line has closed a bit. Anthony Smith, 33-15 record, 32 years old, 7,500 plus 219. Anthony Smith, you look at his record, of those 15 losses, he's been finished 13 times. That is incredible. You look up and down his record, I don't know if I've seen a fighter improve as much as Anthony Smith over the course of his career, maybe besides Danny Ige. Anthony Smith coming off of the hellacious beating at the hands of Glover Teixeira, where he looked like $1 million for the first 6.5 minutes of that fight. You watch the 3:11 mark of the second round in the Teixeira fight, and the wheels just fall off. He takes a deep breath, and that was it. He hit a wall. I think that Smith should be fighting at middleweight, although seems to have been able to transform into the light heavyweight body. You look at Smith's takedown defense, only 51% takedown defense. You look at his takedown accuracy, 27%. This guy was taking L's back in strike force. Also, he lost to a lightweight in Josh Neer back in 2013. Granted, got that one back in a rematch. So this fight's not expected to go to a decision at minus 170. You look at Rakic, his fights. So he's been in a few fights in the UFC. He doesn't have an extensive resume at only 12-2. But I like what I've seen so far. Granted, he isn't defensively sound on the feet, so that's something to be concerned about. But you look at how he came in on the scales. I have no idea how this guy makes 205 pounds, and he stays incredibly bricked up. He was the second fighter to the scale, something to pay attention to. And then you had Anthony Smith, who was one of the last fighters to the scale. 88% takedown defense so far in his career for Rakic. He's only landing his takedowns at 28%. I believe the stats here are worth looking at, because if this fight plays out on the feet, you got to wonder, is Anthony Smith going to gas himself out again? You watch the Gustafsson fight, he looked like he was playing around there, waiting for his opportunities, and you watch, that was against a Gustafsson who was about to retire. So in this spot, either Anthony Smith, in my eyes, Anthony Smith gets this fight done inside the distance, or Rakic, he has a couple of ways of doing this. I could see him potentially finishing Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith would have been finished for the 14th time in his career. So there are a lot of holes in Anthony Smith's game, and he, talk about information overload in his last fight, came out like a man on fire. I have serious concerns how he's going to bounce back after the loss to Glover Teixeira. For him to take this fight 3 months after that beating, people ask me which is worse, to get knocked out, one punch knocked out, or to take a beating like Anthony Smith took. And I would much I have major concerns about the damage that Smith took in that fight. You watch how many times he was dropped, and he is tough as nails. He does have a lion heart. So that's one of the reasons I'm not going to be picking Anthony Smith in this spot. Smith does have better jiu-jitsu here, and if this fight does hit the mat, I have concerns for Rakic. But if Rakic is on top, he does have a solid top game. Give me Rakic to win this fight. This fight is only 3 rounds, and although he doesn't have the highest volume, and he's tend to fade in fights in the past, Rakic should have enough to go 3 rounds here if need be. So give me Alexander Rakic to win this fight. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Good morning. Have a great Saturday. You can follow me on Twitter at MikesMMAPicks. I'm going to thank BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker for hosting the podcast. And go get what's yours, my friends. Have a fantastic fight day. Take down those DraftKings contests.